Hey, welcome to Full Circle on this Monday. I hope you had a good weekend. I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks very much for joining us in our newsroom here in New York. We really think of this as your show, so as always, want to hear from you. You can weigh in with your thoughts or questions in the comments section, and you can start the questions for my guest tonight, Alyssa Milano. She's a gun control advocate who wrote an op-ed on the story you told us is the one you most wanted to know about today, so I invited her on the program to talk about it. It's a little later on Full Circle. Also, our 180 topic tonight is this.
In this darkness, when you don't have electricity, it is very spooky.
Here we go, Jeff, with that aluminum. Jeff, get back, get back. Get back, it's coming apart.
Look over there.
It's coming apart.
This is just relentless, non-stop, just brutal winds. And there's really no let-up.
Yeah, that's me standing like an idiot in various hurricanes. What's it like reporting in the middle of a natural disaster? I'll answer as many of your questions as I can about that on the program. Plus, my question for you, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, should she stay or should she go? I'll explain the story later, but for now, vote. Either call it quits or please don't go. If you're watching live on your phone or your tablet, you should see your choices on the bottom half of your screen. Vote away, then swipe down to clear it. And while you're at it, tag a friend you think might have strong feelings about this one. We'll get you final results, what everyone thinks, before the end of the program. We'll start with the first thing first, a top trending story right now on Facebook. And as you might imagine, as these stories frequently do, it involves baked goods and the people who love them. Take a look.
Hold on. What did you get here?
I got one of these, whatever the hell they call it. It's,
Whatever the hell they call it?
jam. Put it on the sign.
Yeah, that looks pretty good, that cat.
Yeah.
I think I gotta have one of those again.
Former President Obama, former Vice President Biden making a surprise appearance today at Washington's Dog Tag Bakery. Staffers say they had no idea they were coming. As for that thing they both had to have, a ham and cheese on a shallot jam. Is it a ciabatta? Ciabatta. See, I vaguely eat. They also shared coffee and brownies, but Mr. Biden took it just a bit further, adding a slice of blueberry cake as well. Now, for the one thing you need to know, one thing we don't want you to miss today, President Trump is threatening again to shut down the government if he doesn't get funding for a border wall. And that's not what fellow Republicans want to hear with midterm elections approaching. The president mentioned the threat in a tweet over the weekend. He reiterated it at a joint White House news conference this afternoon.
If we don't get border security, after many, many years of talk within the United States, I would have no problem doing a shutdown. It's time we had proper border security with a laughing stock of the world.
The president has said in the past he wants as much as $25 billion to fund the wall. When asked about that amount today, he said that isn't a red line and there's room for negotiation. The next budget deadline, by the way, is September 30th. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said a shutdown so close to the midterms won't happen. McConnell said the Senate has a lot of work today to do this week before their summer recess. He hopes they can fund the government in a, quote, timely and orderly manner. Now on to the three things you want to know. You voted on your top stories on this page. We've spent the day digging into them. Here are your top three. Starting off at number 3 tonight, the search is on for hikers still trapped on a volcano. Take a look at this.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Ish. I think we had to go down
Yeah.
right now.
This all started after a shallow 6.4 earthquake struck a popular Indonesian island Sunday morning. About 800 people were stuck in the volcano. At least 680 have been rescued. Many more are still stuck there, according to the officials with the national park where the hikers were climbing. At least 15 people are dead across the island. Another 162 are injured following the initial earthquake and the more than 100 aftershocks. Aid is being distributed by the Indonesian Red Crescent, and the government is supplying water, tents, and food. And the story is where our 180 topic comes from today. That's a little later on in the program, but for now, write your questions for me, and I'll get to as many as I can on what it's like reporting in natural disasters. Now, for the number 2 story you voted on, the notorious RBG. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says she hopes to serve at least 5 more years past her 90th birthday. The 85-year-old justice is the oldest member of the court and among its most liberal. Her future on the bench has been the subject of a lot of speculation, certainly because her departure during the Trump presidency would, of course, allow him to appoint a 3rd Supreme Court justice, shifting the court's balance of power even more, potentially for decades. But she says she is planning to stay.
Why are you on your knees?
What? I'm cramping and I'm working out with an 85-year-old woman.
We know that she can physically leave some folks younger than her in the dust, as she has shown when working out with our friend Stephen Colbert. When asked about retiring or if term limits should be set for justices, Ginsburg said this is about our Constitution. Article 3 says we hold our offices during good behavior, and most judges are very well behaved. Which brings me back to my question for you. Should Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg retire or stick it out until age 90? These are the results of how you're voting so far. I'll get you the final count at the end of the program. Here's the number one story you voted on today: a growing legal battle over 3D printed guns. The Attorney General of 21 states have sent a letter to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. They want the federal government to withdraw from a settlement that allows people to download plans to make 3D printable guns. This comes as 8 states and the District of Columbia are suing the Trump administration over the decision. Also last night, there was an emergency hearing to block Pennsylvania users from getting access to the plans online. 3D printed guns are so-called ghost guns because they're unregistered and don't come with serial numbers, according to Pennsylvania's Attorney General. By Sunday, more than 1,000 people had already downloaded plans to print an A-15-style semi-automatic assault rifle. We're sticking with this topic for today's Full Circle interview. As I just mentioned, 21 state attorneys general have come together to fight against the 3D guns. A coalition of organizations against gun violence rallied to help make that happen. Our guest is actress Alyssa Milano, who works with one of those groups. She's with No RA, short for No Rifle Association. She wrote an opinion piece on CNN.com today, and she joins me now. Thanks so much for being with us, Alyssa. We appreciate it. I want to
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to read people the headline of your opinion piece. It was titled, "A 3D printed gun is downloadable death." And you also went on to say it's not hyperbole to say that this could mean the end of our ability to have meaningful gun violence prevention in America. Can you just explain what you meant by that?
Well, I mean, I think it's not a coincidence that the NRA has been very, very quiet on this issue. And I think part of that might be because if we are able to actually download guns in our own home, it really sort of exemplifies this idea that everyone should be armed and dangerous to be able to prevent, the good gun with the good guy with the gun is going to be better than the bad guy with a gun. But I do think it's awfully interesting that the NRA is so quiet on this. And just for a little backstory, during the Obama administration, there was this company called the Defense Distributed, and they posted online plans for guns and weapons. And the Obama State Department actually stopped this from happening, ordered them to be taken down. And of course, last month, the Trump State Department abruptly reversed this, setting the case and allowing the plans to be legally downloaded. And like you said in the intro, apparently since Sunday, 1,000 people have downloaded 3D files for AR-15s.
Yeah.
Like, what world are we living in right now? How is this okay? And I think, is the NRA using this to avoid the real conversations we need to have about gun reform and trying to distract from the 52 state level gun laws that have been put into place since Parkland? What is the deal? Where do the manufacturers of these 3D printers, where do they stand on this? I mean, along with the Newtown Action Alliance and Fred Gutenberg's Orange Ribbons for Jamie, we've attempted to contact manufacturers of these 3D printers and these 3D systems to get their help on this issue. One is called Stratasys, and 3D Systems is the other one. We contacted both. They have not returned our calls, and we are hoping, obviously, that they will join us in this fight.
Well, let me ask you, what made you want to get involved in anti-gun violence advocacy? Was there a specific moment or event for you?
Well, I think Newtown was probably the most devastating event of my adulthood. And obviously, I didn't think that enough was done. But really, after Parkland, seeing that we were still having the same conversation year after year and just making these very little incremental movements towards something positive, got me really upset. And I think that the gun issue is very tricky for celebrities to sort of get involved in. because there are so many people that are responsible gun owners, and we, by no means does NRA want to take away anyone's guns. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. We're a two-gun household. But I do think that it's crazy that we have an association, a gun lobby like the NRA that is able to manipulate our politicians to prevent policy from being really implemented to make our country safer.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. I can't wrap my head around it. With two kids, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I can't. I don't get it.
We have some questions for you from our Facebook audience. Giannis asks, would taking down these blueprints be considered a violation of the people's First Amendment right to free speech?
Well, I mean, I do think freedom of speech under the First Amendment is clearly super, super important. But it's not unlimited. I mean, courts have recognized reasonable limits on the First Amendment, before for at least 100 years. So I do think that this is a kind of an important moment in history where what are we going to decide to do, especially when gun violence is such a systemic epidemic in our culture.
And also
preventable.
There's a viewer named Evangelist who wants to know what organizations are currently involved in opposition to these widely available gun blueprints. How can citizens join them?
I mean, again, Newtown Action Alliance has been great. Fred Gutenberg of Orange Ribbons for Jamie has been wonderful. The Brady campaign has been great. Every town has been wonderful. I think, the most important thing that we can all do as citizens is really have this issue matter. I know it's very hard right now. We have sort of issue fatigue, but this is super, super important. And if you can call your state attorney generals or attorneys general and get them on board, this is such a critical issue. Please call your state representatives, your district representatives. It is vital that we prevent this from happening, and this is really part of the bigger picture, which are ghost gun do-it-yourself kits.
Yeah.
And there was a gun that was responsible in 2013 for the Santa Monica shooting. That was one of those do-it-yourself kits. So for people to think, well, it's not lethal enough to waste our time. It is. It's vital. It's so important. And we all know how quickly technology can change.
Who knows where it goes from here?
Who knows where it goes from here?
Yeah.
Not only that, but who knows how more affordable it becomes.
Sure.
Right?
Well,
and there's no registration, there's no licensing for these guns, so they really do just exist in the ether for bad guys to get them.
Well, Alyssa, I appreciate you talking with us today. Alyssa Milano, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's time now for the 180, where I'll flip the script, take some of your questions. Tonight, the earthquake in Indonesia is a reminder of the power of Mother Nature. Here are some of the questions you have about the challenges of reporting on natural disasters. Karen wants to know, when covering a natural disaster, how do you decide if a location is close enough to the action but far enough away from the danger, and have you ever misjudged the balance? Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to get as close as possible, and you also have to take into consideration your safety and the safety of your crew and everybody around you. A lot of it just has to do with experience and kind of getting a sense of where things are happening, where the epicenter of something is. With something like a hurricane, it's often difficult exactly figuring out where it's going to strike, but if you're covering a hurricane, you usually have various fallback positions, so you have kind of a frontline position, and then as it gets closer, as it gets darker, you kind of fall back to another location. But you really do need to try to be as close as possible to where people are in need and where people or need information. John asks, have you ever driven with storm chasers and followed a tornado? I've never actually driven with storm chasers. I mean, I've sort of followed tornadoes, not in the closest way that storm chasers do. I've certainly interviewed a bunch of storm chasers, but I haven't done that. We usually try to, especially for hurricanes, pick a location that we feel good about. Oftentimes we'll have to move as the hurricane moves, but we've gotten it down to kind of a science, and we also try to have as many correspondents in as many different locations. So if it does have a last-minute change, you're not in the wrong place, but you may be in the wrong place, but someone else can cover it. Suzanne wants to know: do you ever get scared being in the middle of the hurricanes like you were in Florida? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's not as it's kind of cool. I got to say to usually we're in a safe enough location. We have a place we can run indoors. We're not completely exposed, so it's not like we're facing the danger that somebody may be facing who didn't know the hurricane was coming. But it's extraordinary to see that power up close, to be in the middle of it, particularly when it's all around you. It's pretty extraordinary. Hussein asks, is it more challenging to be in the midst of a natural disaster or its aftermath? That's a really good question. I mean, I got to say the aftermath is, obviously there's physical security during something while it's happening, but the aftermath emotionally, it can truly be devastating. And we've certainly seen that in the wake of Katrina, the wake in Maria in Puerto Rico, and the earthquake in Haiti. So, it's certainly, I always feel privileged to be in a place where something has happened, where you can give voice to people, where you can shine a light on people's needs. Time now for the goods. One last story that hopefully leaves you feeling good. In the case of tonight's story, so good, so good, so good, because the legendary Neil Diamond himself showed up to sing for firefighters who've been battling a wildfire in Colorado. The Lake Christine fire started earlier this month. It's now about 82% contained. Over the weekend, Neil Diamond visited a command post in Basalt, Colorado, near where he lives, to thank firefighters for their work. Take a look.
Reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline. The times never seem so good, so good, so good, so good.
That's cool. The impromptu performance comes 6 months after Diamond announced he was retiring from touring after being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. That's almost it for today, but before I go, here's what you think about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's retirement plans. 22% of you want her to call it quits, while 78% of you say, please don't go. Thanks for all your votes. I also want you to take a look at how you reacted to the show. In today's news, looks like overall your strongest emotion was, was love again. That's certainly nice. We appreciate that. Always nice to hear. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday. I hope you have a great week. If you like what you saw, go ahead, follow us on our Facebook page, Anderson Cooper Full Circle. Hope you join in again tomorrow on our page here. Vote for the things you want to know. We'll be back live tomorrow night, 6:25 p.m. Eastern. Till then, I hope you tune into AC 360 tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. On tonight's program, the two words that the president says the most when talking about Russia are no collusion. Now, one of his key defenders is saying he's not even sure collusion would be a crime. We'll keep him honest. I'll see you soon.